Welcome to Dear Alice, a lifestyle approach to interior design.
Hello everyone and welcome to Dear Alice. Today we are talking pattern scale, rhythms, and repeats. This is a really important part of design. It keeps things from looking too stale, too static, too flat.
Yeah, and it takes it to looking to something that has a story. It's a storytelling, and whether that's an architectural story you're trying to tell, or just like a maximalist pattern on pattern, or ultra traditional, where you have like the same, wallpapers, you do the florals, and all those things play off of each other to tell the story that you want to tell in your house. And it's a really powerful tool, and one that we love to flex in all the spaces that we do and reflect the client's taste. So yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
So for instance, like that floral wallpaper you just talked about, done petite feels sweet, like a little girl's bathroom. Done like large,
a liner of a hat box.
Yes.
Right.
Done, or like a liner of a underwear drawer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Or a kerchief out of a man's pocket square, kind of thing.
Yeah. Or a Easter morning situation, or done large. It feels very romantic and
very romantic,
Southern.
Yeah.
Yes. So the scale of things, the scale of patterns also changes things quite drastically. So it's important to get it right, and it evokes a certain feeling depending on what it is you're trying to create. And these are the tools that designers use over and over again to get extraordinary results, or results that feel familiar. I remember when we were doing a home, probably 7 years ago, this client, it was actually a project that was published in Elle Decor, and it's like a 26,000 square foot home, shake shingles. It kind of looked like a beach home. We call it the Coastal Contemporary in our portfolio. And when we met him, he just always dreamed of having a black and white checkered entry. He said his aunt had a black and white checkered entry, and she wore fake eyelashes, and he always knew she was very successful. And one day when he grew up, he wanted that for himself. And it was actually the gentleman that wanted it. And so we did get him a black and white checkered entry. If you look at the portfolio, you'll see what we did. It was kind of a play off of that. But there's things like checkerboard that always evoke a certain feeling.
Yeah, it really does. And if you look, I think we're just talking about just different regions of the world. And if you find yourself being drawn to a very like organic, cool Moroccan Mexico vibe, if you look at pictures of just like these historic towns and these buildings, they have really rad tile patterns in checkerboard. And I feel like it's everywhere. It's in Europe. It's everywhere, right? You see that checkerboard, but it's interpreted in a different way with a different material. And that's when I think you can key in to like, what is your style? How do you apply that into your home? And I think that's when you start to kind of build the layers. And I think when we talk about pattern today, I think we kind of want to talk about it like on the shell of the house, how we use it, pattern, and then just like in those topical things, the treatments on the walls, the window treatments. A lot of people have questions on just like how many patterns on pillows is too much, and so we'll kind of touch on that too. But yeah, just like Jess was saying, I think also pattern. I think we have strong memory correlations to it too.
Yes,
I think we can all remember like things, I remember my grandma had like these scarves. I remember her wearing them, and those patterns like have become art on my walls. And, just like our client, he saw his aunt's checkerboard floor, and like, that's something that like brought something wonderful to him. And that was a pattern. And so I think it's a really beautiful way to give homage to your history and how you grew up, what you saw in your grandma's house that like you loved. And
it has memory points.
It totally has memory points.
Yeah. And I think as you design your home that you should think about what those memory points are going to be, because even though it's for you, the people that come by will associate those patterns or rhythms of wall paneling or whatever it may be. They might remember your powder bath, but those things are the things that tell your story. And so we just wanted to talk about what they mean and how to do it, and just kind of some of the feelings and thoughts that they evoke. So the first one, we did put it out to our audience to ask if people had questions about pattern, scale, rhythms, or repeats. And one of the first questions they had was how to do plaid without it looking like a farmhouse.
Fair. Okay. So when we go back to the plaid, I mean, we kind of talked about the black and white checkered floor. I think is still considered, I'm going to put it out there as that kind of geometric plaid foundation. I don't think a black and white checkered floor in any region where whether it's a terracotta or a marble feels farmhouse. And I think we've done it in a lot of different ways that make it feel quite modern. That isn't a standard checkered board, but it's a variation of that. I remember we designed a home. Gosh, when did we do that home? And I did that plaid entry. It was just like remarkable. Anyway, it was just, it was so beautiful. And I was just like pillaging, trying to find a really cool archived plaid to make this like space feel really historic and very foundational because of the story we were trying to tell with this house. We kind of built it where this portion of the front of the house was supposed to feel like it had existed there for hundreds of years.
Oh yeah.
And then like through the tile patterns, and then we had this like add-on that was supposed to like tell that story to this historic structure. And so it was through the tile patterns and the plaids and the different geometrics that we told the story of being classic versus what was newer. So I think you can like really reference history and something that's classic that you won't tire of. I think when you're talking about farmhouse, I think we've seen that modern farmhouse coined for so long. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is the buffalo check, you know, and a lot of like people like dove into that and did like printed tiles of buffalo check, and everyone's like, oh, cute. And they put it on their floor and they hate it now. So yeah. Anyway, I think when if you were about to like embellish on a plaid, I think you just like look toward history. You look toward history and you look toward travel, like places you've traveled that you've loved the energy of that space and see how they did it. Cause I guarantee you they did a version of it.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I think of plaid too. And I know for my own mother, my family, for lots and lots of clients that always want the same look that Ralph Lauren exudes. And when I think of plaids, I always think of Ralph, whether it has the teddy bear embroidered on it, a nonogram, a monogram, a horse, whatever. He does a really good job with this sort of preppy East Coast kind of a feeling.
English traditional wool.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's a really, really rich, handsome way that's traditional, that's never going to go out of style. So if you're leaning into plaids, I think, yes, definitely look at the story it's going to tell. But to me, that's always a good one. We just developed a really beautiful plaid rug. It's almost more modern because there's plenty of white space in it, kind of an irregular plaid. We just developed a hand knotted rug called the Fin rug that just dropped in our collection. And we have two really mini sizes for the kitchen sink, which are also hand knotted. So really good value for hand knot, both the Fin and the Fife rugs. So those plaids I think are done really, really well. The colors are interesting, and I think they feel timeless too. So I think those are great patterns.
Yeah. And well, if you're going to be introducing plaids, like we always say when we're incorporating all these different patterns in a room, right? So you have, you know, if you're a big wallpaper, we might have a large scale floral mural, you know, but then like you do want to anchor that with some geometry. And so be it that a plaid, you know, in some of the upholstery or window treatments, you know, you can combine these patterns if that's what you're drawn to, but know that they play well off of other opposite types of pattern.
Yeah, that's great. Can and should you have every pillow be a different pattern, or do you use repeated patterns?
Repeated patterns. I think we do it more as a repeated pattern. Like if we have a sofa, we have a really good pattern pillow, and we actually did this for a client recently where she wanted to do this like really wild House of Hackney fabrics. And so we put it on these lampshades and it was wild. And we're like, we need to see it somewhere else. And so we put it on two of the pillows on the sofa, and just seeing that repeated pattern. Yes, it's bold and it's wild and the scale's so fun, but by seeing it more than once, it doesn't become such a shock in just that one corner because it's kind of balanced throughout the room. So I think repeating it, I think, is the more successful.
Yes.
And then taking elements of that, be it like if this is kind of a mustard colored pattern on the field, we took that color and did a stripe in that same mustard over here on this sofa. And I think it starts to be a really nice balance play.
I love what you said about House of Hackney. I think that's a really great resource. Yeah. So tell them, can you look up those of you that are on Instagram, I think you should look up this account. How do you spell House of Hackney? House of Hackney is
House of O-F. Hackney is Hackney. Yeah, I had to check myself.
Give them a follow. That's really fun, especially if you love pattern and scale.
Yeah. Wallpaper is like fabulous. And like they do like the matching. One trick that we love seeing that I think most designers have crushed on at some point, a layer, is when you have like the wallpaper that matches the fabric that matches. And again, that's a repeated pattern. Mm-hmm. So again, by seeing that more than once, it just kind of gives it some visual importance. And then it doesn't become such a shock because there's more than one thing in it.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
okay. Next question is, how do you know if you will love a pattern or print long-term or if you'll tire of it? I think it's funny. A lot of people think, oh, I'd never tire of that. It's traditional. It's always, it's always good in the world and the universe. But I feel like with us, with clients, it's like they're one style. And then when they want to do a house again, it's almost like they want to do the opposite thing. Yeah. So it's not to say that pattern's going to go out of style. Whether or not you're in the mood for something new, that's really the question. Mm-hmm. So if you're like the same person always and forever, you always wear the same colors, the same type of jewelry. You never veer from that. I know for myself, I get really sick of myself and I'm like, I want to find clothes that don't look anything like me because I'm in a mood, Yeah. So I make sure it fits well, but I just want to make sure it doesn't look like stuff I already have. Yeah. Some people just like stick with the same uniform because it feels really right to them. So if that's the case, you're probably not going to tire of your patterns. And, I think there's a lot of really universal patterns that are great long-term.
Mm-hmm. I do. Yeah. And I think when you reference just the Ralph Lauren moment, that's really great. And I think Ralph Lauren does his pattern in a really beautiful way where sometimes it's really pared down, where it's like in a big white space and it's like not a lot, he'll use the same pattern, but it's just like with a lot more breadth to it versus one that's just like really layered with hides and horns and all the different things. And so I think we have a client that we did the Tahoe treehouse for actually. And there was a lot of just textures and things happening. And now we're doing another home for them. And they want kind of like, they love that moment and they love that it's in the mountains and it evokes a feeling, but they're doing another house and it's in the valley in California. And they just want it to be a lot lighter. And like their kids are getting to a certain age where it is chaotic. And so they don't want a lot of pattern and a lot of visual busyness, because of the stage they're at in life and the mood that they want that home to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think
want calm.
Yeah. Easy. And I think when you're thinking of that too, we mentioned obviously like you're thinking of your floral patterns, you're thinking of all these topical things that you're doing with pattern, but I was saying even like the chandelier that we choose for the room, be it one with lots of arms and legginess, that creates repeat and rhythm and pattern. And so when we're looking at all these things, well, if there's a lot happening, I'm going to go more toward a globe or a bowl chandelier or something just to limit the amount of repetitiveness that I'm seeing up there too. So note that even those things, even though it's not a fabric pattern, still create a rhythm and a pattern in that space. And, we'll either create a calmness or a busyness.
Yeah. And they also cast certain shadows at night.
Yeah.
So I know I have a globe in my entryway by Aaron Lauder, and it's called the Mill Pendant, and it casts, it's like a casted sort of cage that it is. It's this globe. Yeah. It's kind of a cage. It's kind of a sort of a plaid or a check that it casts all over the walls. I know we just installed a home that has chain sconces and the walls look like they're ribbed at night. Yeah. It's incredible. Amazing. Yeah. So that, that's another thing that you pay attention to as a designer. Like if this texture is going to be giving off, what are the other textures that are going to complement it?
Exactly.
Yeah. How do you coordinate patterns like mixing contemporary and traditional and still have it work?
Ooh. I don't know. When I'm thinking of like contemporary and traditional patterns, I think a lot of times we're mixing profiles, contemporary and traditional, and like playing with the actual like frame of the furniture piece. And I think that also creates rhythms, right? Like if you have a big winged chair that's like has wooden moldings on it and it has lots of different like carvings and intricacies, that's a pattern. Now, if I were to put a modern upholstery on top of that, yeah, I don't know.
I was thinking about Catherine's entry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. With her marble floors make a pattern, but then her railings, the entryway, those feel really clean, but then there's some beautiful soft lines to them as well. And so it's just easier to, in my mind, I'm like, there's a really traditional floor, but then a little more cleaner railing. And I think the juxtaposition between like a little bit cleaner with a little more traditional, puts us right in that sweet spot of transitional where you're never really going to tire of it, because I don't ever like leaning in fully to traditional.
No.
It's just
a heavy lane.
It is a heavy lane. Yeah. So like lightening it up with a little bit simpler railing instead of a curly railing, because then otherwise the whole thing gets really heavy and very serious. And a lot of people's lifestyle just isn't that deep,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I was talking about just like the heavy wood carved chair or something. A lot of times we'll take something like that that's traditional, but then we'll put like a wild mohair on it that's solid. So it actually gives, some
cleans it up.
It cleans it up, and you can actually see the form of the chair instead of trying to like compete the two. And I think that that's a way to modernize something that is traditional.
Do you think that's a good way of not tiring of something too? Is to kind of be blending styles rather than just go hardcore one way?
I think so. I think for so long we were just talking about, the Tuscan era, that it wasn't just Utah. I want to say it was like a lot of places.
Tuscan is connecting cheap with Tuscan. For those of you who don't know, it's like Tuscan that's not authentic, which is the way most people interpret it. It doesn't really look like Tuscany.
But everyone leaned so hard in that era, and they did it on their walls. It was heavy, like chopped down plaster, and it was like really just like heavy. Everything was heavy, and everything was red, green, or like gold, and it was dirty. It was like a dirty color, but then, and they did it on their furniture. They had the red poppy paintings. And anyway, it was too much. And so that for like, I don't know, a decade, we were just peeling that off of everybody's
We almost
home.
got buried alive by it. It was
Guys,
so heavy.
It's a miracle we're here. Really. Because it was just so bad.
I like the way that you put it best is Olive Garden.
Oh no, I'm like, think about Olive Garden or the Carrabba's that used to exist. I don't even know if those are around. Anyway, but it's
Everybody's
just,
house looked like
it doesn't look like Tuscany, y'all. At all.
Oh man, that's funny.
Anyway, but just like don't lean too heavy into one thing, because you will tire of it. So to that pattern moment, unless it's something historically that you're emotionally tied to, and you don't think that you're going to tire of it, just, I don't know, keep it open and be okay that if you tire of it, you can replace it. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's true.
Okay. So give yourself that freedom.
Good talk, Sue.
Cheers. Next.
Okay, so you kind of answered this already, but it was, should you repeat patterns throughout your house to make it cohesive? And you were saying, no, you'll tire of it if you do too much of a good thing. So do you I feel like one way that you could do pattern throughout the house would be paneling in your hallways, in your stairwells, or in your stairwells, again, like the upper carpets or maybe a pattern, and same with going down toward the basement in a separate part of the house. You do the same beautiful patterned carpet to give it sort of a scarf runner detail in the middle of the home. Something like that. So I do think that it's good to tie it in someplace else so that it's not like this orphan of an idea hanging Chad. If you will.
Totally.
You gotta tie it in somewhere else.
Yeah. And I like seeing things more than once. Do you know what I mean? So even if it's just like a shape, or like you said, just like you're seeing that carpet another time, when we do a home, like if we have a wallpaper in this one house, I'll often say, okay, what was the wallpaper that we pulled for the pattern? Let's make sure that those talk to each other, so that as you're navigating through the house, they feel like they're part of the same home. They don't have to be the exact same thing, but that they at least speak to the same human that occupies the space.
Yes.
So
love that. Okay. Patterned carpet throughout the home, or just in certain spaces?
Certain spaces.
Yeah. Which would be like the closet.
The closet.
His and hers closets might be separate carpets if they're in different rooms.
Yeah. The
If
stair.
they have to share a room, then.
Yeah. Then they get the same pattern.
Yeah.
Lucky him. The stairs.
That means the woman won.
Yep. I think
Sorry, gentlemen, if you're listening.
I think the stairs, one thing I will say, we had our client recently in Dallas, and we did this like really fun pattern going up their main stairwell, but it felt too formal for her back stairwell. So we found something that got along with it, but that it was a little bit more casual. So again, they spoke to each other pattern wise, but they evoked different formalities. You know, one was more formal, and that was like the proper entry. The other one was like their back of house for their children. Yeah. The children don't need the fancy one.
Also, I find that if people have a theater in their home, they sometimes like to do like a sculpted carpet, or like something that has patterns sculpted into it, or even they could use a pattern in the theater, because it's a room where you want to have an experience.
Yeah.
So
it's specific.
certain spaces for
We're always layering rugs on top of carpet anyway. So we're always keeping that in mind, which is why in a lot of these spaces, if it is a carpeted living room or if it is a carpeted, even your bedroom, we're not going to say do a pattern broadloom from wall to wall, because we're going to add a rug that's going to have some type of pattern or interest to kind of give back to the space.
Yep. Okay. This one's a trick question, Sue. I'm going to ask you, you have to answer it. You ready? Because I don't know the answer. So you have to provide one. Best pattern for traditional Grand Millennial nursery.
Best pattern for traditional Grand Millennial. You want a mural.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you to put a mural on your walls. If you're a Grand Millennial, and then you're going to layer all sorts of ooga nooga and like velvet stripes, and you're going to it's going to be a really good time in there. But I would say go big. To make a big statement.
It's like pastel brights, and we don't know if it's a boy or girl.
Well, boy or girl, or just like if they're
Twins.
jungle theme. I want to see like a forest in there, just depending on your style for a Grand Millennial. I think you can go, I don't know, a lot of different directions, but I think going big on your walls, if you really are saying you're a Grand Millennial, you're leaning into that. I would say go big pattern on a mural in your wall for your nursery. I think that would be the most transportive pattern you could add.
Do you think that baby would grow up to be such a fun adult?
Right? I know. I imagine them being like a musician, or I don't know,
an artist,
an
adventurer, or zookeeper.
For sure.
Yeah, something fun. Okay.
Yes.
Any tips on combining patterns?
I think we mentioned this before that, when we have a great pattern that we want to repeat, we'll do it more than once, but we'll add a geometric. And we always play with scale on patterns too, where we have small things with larger things, and they won't match in scale. They will vary. And I think that that's a successful way of blending your patterns.
Yeah. And I think also like soft shapes, like florals or like murals, like Sue's saying, with geometric shapes. That always feels really good. It's like florals and stripes from the 80s and 90s, Those always made sense together, right? I think it's the same concept, different look today.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, scale.
But let's just go to a Gucci ad.
Yeah.
Talk about pattern on pattern. They do it really well, and they do it in a wild way. So I think it's a great way to be expressive.
Definitely.
And, I think we talk a lot about when we're doing the shell of a home. The shell of the home should speak to its architecture and the story that is speaking. And then everything on top of it, is free game. If you're a maximalist, you're going to do a lot of fun patterns and a lot of cool wallpapers. You're going to have wild carpet where you're supposed to, and you can just pepper in all these other things that feel right. You'll know if it's not right when you put a swatch in a room and you're like, gosh, I think I like it, but I don't know if it's the right thing. Then you know immediately. I think that human eye knows when it's right and when it's wrong. So if it's not right, don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wait for the right thing to come along.
For sure. I'm going to talk about the Gucci store for a second. Okay. I was just there in Chicago over the holidays, and the store on the Magnificent Mile is such an experience, which I think a Gucci store should be an experience. Totally. And if you're listening, if you want your home to be an experience. So the floors in the main space are a parquet floor made out of patterned woods that are cut, into small patterns and installed rather than straight lay. The stairs that go upward are plaid carpet, and then you get up to the top floor, and it's probably 10 hand knotted rugs layered all over each other in this beautiful scene. And there's a jewelry case on top of it. And then all of the gorgeous clothes just are so saturated. And you just want to be a part of that world. And the sunglasses are oversized, and you're just tripping on this world that's not like any other experience you've had. So if you want to create a home that's an experience, because you're a real individual, you're a celebrity. I'm pretty sure we have celebrities listening, don't we, Sue?
Totally.
Where you're a real individualist. I think some of those incredible high fashion houses are really fun places to take notes. Gucci offers wallpapers now. They had a whole wall of throw pillows that are embroidered with huge tassels, and you can get the look now for your own home. It's not just for fashion houses. So I think it's a really fun place to take cues on how to incorporate scale and pattern and texture, like embroideries and tassels and all of that. I think that's also very much the maximalism.
Yeah. I think fashion in general, like if you're drawn to Gucci, like I love their ads and I'm just like, I could live on that ad.
Yeah.
I love it, And so I know that I like pattern on patterns, but if that like gives you hives and like you get nervous and anxious and you need a little bit more calmness, then try and find like what's your fashion note, because that's likely what you're going to want to surround yourself with.
Yeah, for certain. Yeah, you know that. And I, like she said, I think looking to your closet tells you a lot about you. We're working with a couple right now in Dallas, and he does not like the color black in anything. And I said, why? What is wrong with black? And he said, I would never wear black shoes with a suit, ever. I wear suede shoes. I have camel shoes. I won't wear black. So it's just like a standard rule for him, and he cannot see why it belongs in a house, and the rest of us are like, depth,
contrast.
All of these magical things that dark shades do, but it's just not part of his vernacular. And that's great. Their home's going to be very ethereal and beautiful, and it's going to be a real, place of rest from the world.
But he knows that about himself. So it's not going to be, his home's not going to be a place he'll tire of, because he knows exactly how he likes to live.
And I think that's why it's a good note, because a lot of you have so many questions. Obviously we have probably 40 questions here about, pattern and scale and rhythm and repeats that we want to try and answer for you. But if you really do look to your wardrobe, it tells you a lot about yourself. You're fine making $100 decisions about what you're going to wear. Mm-hmm. You get paralyzed when it's like $1,000 decisions for your home, but always look back to your closet and what you're comfortable with. And that will help answer some of these questions for your home.
If your closet isn't where you want it to be, look to ads or look to what you want your closet to be before you start making expensive decisions.
Yeah. That's great. Okay. So first question on scale we have is, how do you decide scale for furniture size versus the size of the room?
I mean, I start whenever we're space planning a room, like on CAD, the first thing I see is like, how big of a rug can I get in here? Okay. So if I can fit a 12 by 15 rug, I know that my large pieces of furniture are suited for this room. Now, if it's a smaller room, I still try and go bigger. Just because, so I will honestly, I think scale is like a really beautiful way to show luxury. Mm-hmm. And so just honestly, as big of a piece that you can fit with the other pieces that are going to be around it as well. I don't know if that answered that question, but
I think you did.
I think don't chimp out just because you feel like you have a small room. You don't need a 60-inch sofa. Are you going to be comfortable on that sofa? Is this a sofa that you're like want to lie in for watching TV and stuff? Really think about the function of the space, look at the scale of the room and see how big you can go.
Yeah, for certain. And if you can get all 4 legs of your furniture on that rug, you're going to look really wealthy.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can only fit the front legs of your furniture on it, at least do that. Do not, by any circumstances, put that rug in the middle of your room like a flying carpet and have no furniture touching it. Yeah. One coffee table is not enough to justify that small rug. Like, you really do have to get it underneath your legs. So really there's no reason for a 6x9 rug or a 5x7 rug in anybody's house unless it's in their entryway. Mm-hmm. I think we've said that before, but I just wanted to say it again.
I thought in my living room that maybe 10 by 14 would like be too big. I had a 9 by 12 up until like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And then I put the 10 and it feels
massive.
So awesome.
You feel like it's luxury, don't you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Total luxury. But yeah, I can like attest to that because it literally like changed the feel and vibe and makes us feel wealthy, as Jess would say.
So go bigger
and
than
your room
you think.
looks huge, right?
It really does. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I could get 10 more people in here.
Totally.
Anybody want to come over? I have a huge rug.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
But the human eye, we immediately go to where like the ending of something. So if you have a smaller rug, my eye goes to where that rug meets the floor and it immediately just like shrinks it down. It's like the incredible shrinking machine. Mm-hmm. But if it's large, it stretches it and it just like meanders to the next space when it is large instead of kind of limiting my view. So
I think same thing kind of goes with like the sectional. It's very, very popular piece of furniture today. It is going to make your room look huge, versus separates, which is a sofa, separate chairs, separate tables, all of that. While you can get a really cool outfit popping because you have a lot of different pieces going, one large sectional is going to make it really expand your footprint. You're going to get a lot more bodies in there and it's going to be a really, really large statement that's a little bit more cleaner.
Yep.
Yeah. So depending on your look, and then don't go ruin it by putting different patterns of pillows all over it.
No, don't do that. And I was going to say, if you have a sectional, just make sure you have appropriate size end tables too. Don't have the sectional from wall to wall. Make sure you have like good end tables. Make sure you have good lighting, because if you do I see this a lot. People will get a big sectional and then they'll get teeny little end tables if they have them at all.
Yeah.
And then like appropriate size coffee table or cocktail ottoman, and make sure that sectional is like really grounded by a large rug if you're going to go that big. Mm-hmm. So again, start with your rug and then kind of like layer that on top, and just kind of like appear like a little stacked cake, right? Like you just keep building.
Because
on
if
top
you
of
think
each
about
other.
sectionals today, they're not what sofas used to be, which was like 36 inches. Even if they were 36 inches, that means your end table should be 36 inches, which means you're shopping for a small dining table.
Because it should span the depth of your sofa.
Yeah,
like 30 inches at minimum.
As best as it can. So you're not going to get a little spot table to be your end table, because then your lap's going to fall off. Yeah, I know that sounds like we should all know that, but for some reason we do see a lot of really small tables or no tables at all. Yeah. So we need a place to put our drink down.
I'm a drink spiller, guys. Give me a table to put my drink on.
Give Sue a big table. Oh, that's good. Okay, how do you know the right scale? How do you know what the right scale is? How do I look at my room and find scale problems?
Again, the human eye knows. I don't know. If you're looking at your room and you're like, something's off, I guarantee your rug's too small.
I guarantee your art's too small.
You don't have big enough end tables or tall enough lamps. Mm-hmm. Yeah, your art's way too small. It's hung too high.
It's hung too high and it's too small.
Yeah, your husband did that. Like,
because he's tall.
Yeah.
He's taller than
he
you.
Can see it great, but he
hung it.
And you don't even see your children's eyes anymore because it was a family portrait on canvas.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep. Totally. So get that down at your eye level. I think we've talked about it before. That's going to be 60 inches off the ground for most people. Mm-hmm. 58 for Sue.
Yeah. Thank you. Sometimes 57. Anyway, I was going to say, we just put out this house in Utah Style and Design. It was called the Sugar House in our portfolio. And the thing I love about this house is like, it's not a huge house, but the art that we did is massive. It is huge. And it's one that you'd be like, if you saw it in a gallery, you'd be like, that belongs in an estate. But this, like in this home, it makes the home feel so much grander. And I think, and we use like normal furniture and we space planned it in such a way, but in this smaller house, you can still do really great big tricks. And like by not doing small things in a small house, you're leading the people that are living there and coming to your home to visit that this is a special house.
Yeah. I'll give you a number for scale. I order inventory for our store once a week. And the art that we buy for the showroom is either 50 by 50 inches or it's 96 by 60. And that's like the size, that's like a sofa sized piece of art or something you would hang above a sectional. 96 wide by 60 high. Yeah. Sounds crazy. It looks awesome.
It looks awesome.
Your room looks really big. It sells all day, every day too.
And you only have to buy one of them for that above the sofa instead of like 5 things and wonder why those things aren't working.
Yes. Yeah, I know that those are kind of big, huge numbers, but it's like, that's what you need to get the job done.
And it's the rule for everything. It's the rule for art. It's the rule for pillows. Don't have a bunch of dumb little pillows, guys. Mm-hmm. Strip those off your sofa right now.
Let's talk about pillow sizes.
Okay. Yeah. If you have like a normal, like a large, decent, comfortable sofa, right? Like in your corners, like you can even have like honestly, like a 24 or 26 by 26 in those deep corners. But yeah, 26 by 26 is like a Euro size pillow.
Right. That's kind of the size you need in the corner of a sectional.
Don't you think that that's like the Liebco ones? Like those are about that?
26 by 26,
yeah.
And then you'd want like 24s in your corners or 22s.
Yeah.
What they sell at Home Goods is 18.
Yeah. And you're going to look and be like, why isn't that working? It's because it's too small.
And then you think you need to buy more of them. It's just like a whole bunch of chiclets just sitting on your sofa.
And then you're going to again you're going to be like, what that question on like how many pattern is too many patterns? That's what came to my mind when we read that. I'm like, I guarantee that person is possibly like layering all these pillows on her sofa and saying, maybe this will help. Mm-hmm. But really, if you just go bigger on the scale, you don't need to have that issue.
Yeah. Okay. So we have another question. Sue, go ahead and ask that.
I have high ceilings, but I love small art. You're such a jerk. How do I hang it without it looking dinky and cheap? Okay. I have a good a good answer for you. If you have high ceilings, but you love small art, you are going to go very Tulum here, and you're going to do white plaster on your walls, ceiling, and just envelop it in a texture. And then you're going to take that beautiful Christmas that you have, and you're going to frame it really rad, and you're going to put it on that wall and have it just be a very like sacred little moment. But you have to, if you're going to do small art on a big wall, that art has to be kick-ass, and it has to have a dope frame, and it has to be like a really reverent moment where like nothing else should distract from it. So it has to be an experience that you're trying to give to that space. But if you just have huge walls with a bunch like of 5x7s of just your kids, you know, on that one wall, that's no way to celebrate your art, no way to celebrate your family. Go bigger, people. Like if you have tall ceilings, please go larger. If you like small art, put those on smaller walls.
In the bathroom,
in the bathroom, on narrow little walls in the
above
bedroom.
the toilet.
Yeah, there's lots of spaces that we will do that. We'll do stacks.
Or like in an easel
art
on your mantle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Layer those things, but the eye wants a large backdrop.
Good. That's great. Love that. Okay. You always say go big, 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 but when should we go small?
And those spaces above the toilet. Okay. When should you go small?
I agree with you. Or small art's also really cute on like above the stove, don't you think?
Oh, special.
Like a little gloppy oil of a countryside.
But again, when it's small, it's special. It is a gloppy original oil with a really dope frame.
And it's in a small space.
Yeah.
Like you're having an intimate time when you're boiling water.
Or it's just so special that you just offset it so lightly, you know, like anyway.
Yeah. Or
we're moving our hands, so I hope you guys know what that looks like on how we would apply this.
For sure.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of other times.
I think if you're going to go small, just get an easel and then put it on a surface, a piece of art.
Yep.
Or if you have small accessories, group them together in families and use them in your built-ins.
Yeah.
But they need a small setting, like a built-in, right? Or above the stove or a little bathroom. Small things go in small spaces. Big things go in big spaces. Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, you have to create a gallery out of the small things and put those in a hallway because a hallway is more narrow and it's smaller than a big room.
And study, I would say if you like all these small things, will you study some magazines and find an application where you've seen this small thing be used successfully? I think that that's going to be your key in being able to use the small things you love and like looking at your space and being like, okay, we finally nailed the space. Okay.
Yeah.
So study out spaces and how you can apply the small things, but then also notice where they did large things and why that's successful.
Awesome. Okay. Really quick. One question, right lamp size for a living room.
Oh man. Depends on the living room. I'm a big fan of huge lamps.
Yeah. I mean, we would say minimum size is going to be 30 inches tall. That goes for your nightstands. That goes for your
end tables.
Yeah.
Buffet lamps.
Sue has one that's 48 inches tall in her house. If you get into the 20-inch lamp sizes, then I think you're going to need really big art behind it or something. But really,
and that's for more like, I would say like if you like desk task
it's
lighting,
like
maybe
the light will shine on
like
your book.
Yeah.
But if you want to look like a baby angel while you're sitting on your sofa,
have that light cast onto your cheekbones that you so carefully chiseled with your bronzer, then
you want that
big lamp.
You want that lamp by your face.
Yeah.
So you look really gorgeous. It just depends on if you want to look good in your house or not.
Do you want to be awesome?
30 inches.
Or you're not.
The answer's 30 inches on the right size lamp or bigger. Yep. Okay. Let's see. A few basics on pattern and scale. There's things from the floor where you're going to bring in pattern. Hardwood floors, you can do it in herringbone, chevron, concentric squares, diagonal floors. We stay at this beautiful hotel in Palm Springs as diagonal wood floors. Oh man, that lights my fire. I love it. And
that's so interesting that it's so simple, but it does such big things.
It's like space expanding.
They didn't do anything else. They just turned it.
Yeah.
45 degrees. And you're just like, what happened? Where am I?
It's so good.
Yeah.
We're building a new store right now for Alice Lane, also in Utah. And we're going to do diagonal hardwood floors. Yeah. Just spoiler alert.
So just
you guys wait for
over.
it. It's going to be good, huh,
so
Corey?
Cool. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay, another place to get pattern is going to be in your rugs on the ground.
Yes.
It's going to be your biggest piece of art you're going to buy.
Yep.
That's going to be at least 10 by 14.
At least. Isn't that funny? Like really at market this
Or,
last time. Like
no,
that's what we were ordering.
9 by 12 is probably the
12s or 12 by
smallest
14.
thing that you should buy. Yeah. Unless you have a big entry, then buy an 8 by 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then paneling is another beautiful way.
Yes. I think this is a
For your
great
walls?
way. And I think you can do a lot of interesting things with paneling. Study it. If you're like thinking about using this in your house, and if you have big walls or if you have small walls, it can be used in either kind of space. And there's lots of cool moldings you can do. So study out finish work, study out different types of paneling, because it'll make a space feel like a hotel lobby, Yeah. So I'm excited for you. Do that. Tiles, another one that we do love doing pattern with. I feel like we're really good at making custom tiles and patterns for a space. And I think, again, it can kind of speak to either a history of the storytelling you're trying to do. You have tile in your showers, you have tile everywhere, and you will play with the scale of those different tiles. So play with that, study pictures that you like, and use it in your home. It's really, really fun.
Love that. Upholstery.
Yeah.
You can usually get a little bit of pattern, I think, in ottomans or a chair, that sort of stuff. You could even do a really small scale on a sofa.
And we have seen I feel like at market, we saw some really cool, like linear geometric ones and a cool weave on sofas.
Yeah.
Depending on your style, if you can pull that off, go for it.
If you're Kelly Wersler, just do a huge diagonal pattern on your sofa.
Damn.
Yeah.
Sure.
She's cooler than us.
She is.
She's had to think about it. You know the sofa. You know what we're talking about. Yep. It's beautiful. And then obviously artwork, I think also brings in a beautiful pattern.
It does.
Yeah.
Just like rhythms. And I think even a lot of, artwork that we're drawn to are textiles too.
Yes.
Which I think obviously have a nice repeat.
Mm-hmm. So, I found a magical bolt of fabric and turned it into draperies for my bedroom and a Roman for my bathroom that has kind of calligraphy heads all over it. And they were like Roman heads, and it still makes me so happy every day I see that pattern as draperies. So that's another great place to get it. So lots of really fun ways to incorporate pattern, scale, rhythms, and repeats. Thanks so much for listening to today, guys. If we've always wanted for everyone to have some of Alice Lane in their home. So we created a program where you can have one of our design specialists help you pull your home together one room at a time. They'll help you in your space plan. They can source every single piece down to the very last layer. And get this, these services are complimentary and they're offered nationwide. So if you're interested, just email us at designrequest@alicelanehome.com, or you can call 800-423-7757. Again, you can email us at designrequest@alicelanehome.com or call us at 800-423-7757. We're so excited to work with you. Thanks again for joining us. Hey, thanks for listening. If you like our show, please leave a 5-star rating.